Some of you guys thought I was joking when I said there was just one card I wanted from that Vanguard set. I wasn't joking. I have the poster for it. I've had the poster since the set came out. I just haven't pulled the card.
Hey there, kiddos, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Uncle Frank, and I think you are having a great day. And in today's video, that was a really nice clap right there. I'd like to sit back in my very, very relaxing chair and have a little conversation with all of you guys about corporations. Yes, companies, and the kind of decisions they'll make. But more importantly, I'd like to talk about why they might make some of the decisions they make. Because, over the years, especially if you're a long-term fan of any card game, really, you'll notice that from time to time, companies will make decisions that absolutely baffle the mind. You couldn't possibly understand why they would want to do something like release Magic 30, for instance, or release Universes Beyond, or release Secret Layers. I know that this all seems like it's coming from one company in particular, but any company could obviously do this. Any company could do something as insipid as blame the fans for removing features from pre-releases. That could be anyone. Whatever company you think I'm talking about, it could be any of them, But honestly, in this video, I'd like to explain why companies do the things they do, why they make the decisions they make. And while I'm not trying to defend any company in this video, honestly, I'm not, I do want you guys to walk away from this video with at least an appreciation of what goes into a lot of the decision-making processes that trading card game companies account for before releasing a product or making a decision. And there's really three kinds of things that are huge factors. Okay, there's obviously the market research. Okay, every single trading card game company does market research. Okay, we'll get to that in just a second. Every trading card game company wants to make money, so money is another reason. And finally, experimentation. There's all kinds of experimentation when it comes to trading card game companies, and sometimes it's profit-driven, and sometimes it's gameplay-driven. Okay? And those are really three big things that lead to a lot of the decisions that companies will make. For when it comes to market research, okay, the older a card game is, the more market research they have under their belt. So you'd think that would mean they're less likely to make kind of insane decisions that would go against everything the community wants at that moment. But it's important to remember that just because you have a lot of market research, just because you have a lot of voices in the community telling you one thing or another thing or whatever, just because you're sending out polls and surveys and asking for feedback from the community and all that stuff, just because you have employees who specifically engage with the community on a regular basis, that doesn't mean you're getting the full picture. Okay, it doesn't mean you're getting the full story. There are something like 80% of fans of a given card game will never really interact with the company ever. I think that was the Wizards of the Coast number, something like 80%. It was a while ago if I recall, that I saw that number. But yeah, it's something like a huge percentage of the fans of a given game. The majority of them are never going to engage with the company. They're never going to fill out a survey. They're never going to comment on a YouTube video. They're never going to reply to an Instagram post. They're never going to go on to the official Discord. They're going to play with their friends. They're going to play at school or at a club or at a library. They're never going to engage with the wider community. So the vast majority of people who are fans of a given game are not going to be providing feedback. And when changes are made and those changes appear to not really resonate with the wider community, well, it's because a lot of the wider community never made their voices known. And that's not a bad thing. It's just that a lot of companies can't really reach out as much as their market research would like to reach out. So sometimes they'll do market research, and the feedback they get back for that market research tells them one thing is a good idea, when in reality, it might not be. And that's just a cruel fact of the way the market works. And it's a fact that, a lot of people, especially when it comes to like market research versus results of market research, there's a lot of people who will maybe support something in theory, but not in practice. Uh, I am all for the idea of a company direct selling to the consumer, bypassing distribution and bypassing the stores. But the way that Secret Layers do it, for instance, with Magic the Gathering, is, in my opinion, a very poor way to handle it, especially with their limited releases. They went to print to demand and then went back on print to demand for, again, reasons that seem baffling. Which brings us to the second reason companies might make decisions, the second big reason companies will make decisions, and that is the financial reason. Okay? Time for a truth bomb, a truth nuke, so to speak. Companies like money. Companies like making money. I know it's a crazy thing, but sometimes companies will make decisions that seem completely inane, but they have studies and edicts and all kinds of intelligent people working for them that tell them that, hey, this decision might make us some money. This product that we're charging an absurd price tag for, it will make us some money. This service we're doing, this subscription fee for a role-playing game, a digital version of a physical role-playing game, it'll make us money. Why do people buy into that? I don't understand. But anyway, the point is, sometimes companies just want to make money, so they will try out new ways of making money, whether it's a price increase or a new product line, or even something like a subscription service. They will try, and they'll constantly try new things. They will constantly fine tune it until they can figure out the way to extract the most money for the least amount of problems. And I'm not talking about effort, because effort is ethereal. Effort is entirely determined on the company itself, right? How much effort they want to put into something. No, I'm talking about problems it can cause. Making a lot of money is good. Losing a lot of fans in the process is not good, especially for the long-term sustainability of your product. All right? Sometimes money-making decisions come from on high. Wizards of the Coast is not fully in control of the decisions and products they put out. Konami of America is not fully in control of the products they put out. Pokemon USA is not fully in control of what the Pokemon Company International puts out, for instance. And that's just a fact of life. Sometimes the larger company, the parent company, is going to make decisions that the branch or subsidiary just kind of has to accept and move forward with. Sometimes it's, you got to release this particular kind of set with these crazy cards. And sometimes it's, you got to create secret layer crossover sets that no one really is really happy about. But they'll buy them anyway, right? Sometimes, okay? Sometimes these money-making decisions can seem really good, especially if they're well-researched, aren't too greedy, and can really provide that itch that a lot of fans want. Hasbro can do it from time to time. I want to be very clear here that I don't really want to pick on Hasbro more than any of the other companies. Bandai Namco does it. Bandai has the premium Bandai store where from time to time they'll put out exclusive products or early products you can only get there. Just like the Secret Lair thing, right? Pokemon has the Pokemon Center exclusive ETBs. So this is not a Hasbro exclusive thing. This is just, it's easy to pick on Hasbro, right? And then the final thing, the third factor that will drive a lot of decisions made by companies is experimentation, okay? Trying new things is always good, okay? It will always be good. Because trying radical new ideas gives you a good idea of what the market and the fandom will and won't accept. A good example is the set booster boxes for Magic the Gathering and the Pokemon Center ETBs for Pokemon. These were both experimental new products. Set booster boxes were a kind of in-between middleman between regular booster boxes and collector booster boxes. It was introduced a year later at a middling price point where you got slightly more for your dollar, but not as much as the collector booster boxes. This was in theory, better way to collect and play with the cards you wanted, right? In theory. Well, it ended up failing completely. A lot of set packs did not go well, especially like New Capenna was a really big disaster. And as a result of that failure, Wizards of the Coast had to reformat that entirely, and now it's all play booster boxes. They got rid of draft and set boosters, now it's all play boosters. Meanwhile, the Pokemon Company, with the Pokemon Center ETBs, well, this was just a revamped version of the same product. It's already an ETB, an Elite Trainer box, but it's got a special promo card in there with a little stamp on it that says you bought it from the Pokemon Center. And they tried this out. This is a relatively new product for them, right? And it worked out really well. It was probably only going to be a temporary thing, but it ended up being so popular that they keep doing it basically every set going forward, right? And it's now one of the more desirable products in the Pokemon lineup. Yu-Gi-Oh! Had the Rarity Collection, which was kind of a spur-of-the-moment decision, but it echoes a lot of their other earlier products, like the Gold series and the Ghosts from the Past lineup, where they'll try new things, different kinds of ways to get those rare reprints out there that people totally want. Except Rarity Collection has so far been highly successful. Only one of them was kind of a dud, so they're going to keep doing it. Experimentation, seeing what the fans are cool with, what they'll accept, what they're hyper excited about, it's a good thing, because sure, you could put out the same kinds of products for years and have what Pokemon had, and have what Magic the Gathering had, and have what Yu-Gi-Oh! Had. But if you're only putting out the same thing, the same kind of products for so long, eventually, especially if you hit stagnant waters, you'll find that you'll have less reason to incentivize people to return for your game, and less incentive for people to try out your game. You know, let's say that you were a fan of Yu-Gi-Oh! Since the beginning, and you got out of it, let's say 2016, 2017, 2018, and you hear about this crazy new booster box, the Rarity Collection, and how it has just all kinds of shiny new cards. You might be interested in that, right? If you were a Pokemon fan up until 2007, and suddenly you hear about these new ETBs that have the Pokemon Center stamp on it, you might be interested in that. If you're a Magic fan who got out way back in the day and decided to jump ship, let's say you got really big into sports cards, for instance. Well, now Magic's offering these things called collector boosters, which have rarer cards in them at a higher price point. Well, you're big into sports cards, and that's kind of the same thing almost. So you get super into that. And yeah, believe it or not, this experimentation is what drove things like Secret Layers and Universes Beyond to the forefront of Magic's current release plan. You know, I've said this before when it came to the Final Fantasy set, but Final Fantasy is a ludicrously popular IP. Lord of the Rings is one of the most iconic fantasy franchises in history. Spider-Man is the most recognizable superhero on the planet, up there with Batman and Superman, right? A lot of Universes Beyond sets have been questionable. Looking at you, Assassin's Creed. I maintain to this day that they did the Assassin's Creed crossover because the license was probably dirt fucking cheap. Ubisoft is desperate for money. Wizards probably paid them pennies on the dollar for that license. But that beside, you know, sometimes you try things out just to see if it'll work. And it does work, so you roll with it. Sometimes Wizards of the Coast try something highly experimental, like charging $100 for a booster pack with Double Masters 2022. And people buy it, despite the outrage. There's a lot of outrage, but people buy it. So that emboldens them to try again, which leads to things like Market research tells them, okay, this is the crux of the video. Market research tells them that nostalgia is a huge driver for Magic the Gathering sales. People like their reprints. They like their older cards, right? Financially, Hasbro wants them to make money. And experimentally, they've never done a full revamped set reprint before. Those three things come together, and it gives us Magic 30. Magic 30 ended up being a colossal failure on all fronts. Undesirable by collectors, unwanted by players, hated by stores. It was a massive flop. But all of those factors were taken into consideration. Research, the money, and yeah, trying out new things. Those were all taken into account when Wizards of the Coast, Chris Cox, decided to go, let's try Magic 30. Let's try reprinting all of Beta and just see if people will buy it for $1,000. It failed. But they're going to learn from that mistake. They have learned from that mistake. And moving forward, when they try something similar in the future, and don't you forget, they will try something similar in the future, it'll be done with a bit more research, with, a bit more things changed up to see what people will accept in the future. Maybe ABU proxies with unplayable card backs aren't the thing for $1,000. Maybe just a reprint of Collector's Edition where they're not randomized. Maybe that's the future. Maybe just calling it a brand new take on Magic the Gathering and reprinting them as playable, and it's technically a new game. Maybe that's the future. Who knows? But regardless of if it's Wizards or Konami or Pokemon or any other company, honestly, I know I've picked a lot on Magic today, but any company makes decisions, I'm a huge fan of Flesh and Blood. I have bought every single set since Uprising. I have been a huge fan of the game. I'm not that good at the game. I'm going to be very clear here. I buy all the sets. I play with loads of the cards, and I try to play at least weekly. Okay, and I do like LSS a lot, but I'm sure in the future LSS will make some decision when it comes to Flesh and Blood that I'm going to think is absolutely insane. Why do I think that? Because it's happened with Yu-Gi-Oh!, which I was a huge fan of. It's happened with Magic, which I was a huge fan of. It's happened with Pokemon. Not a terribly gargantuan fan of that, but of some of those decisions. But you get my point. Companies will make decisions that don't seem like they make a lot of sense just because they can't have their ears and eyes everywhere. And what they do get in terms of research and dictates and financial analysis and all that jazz, it can be wrong. It can be lacking a full picture. And not to defend any company, just to explain that companies are made up of people. People are flawed. They try their best because staying in business is it's good for them in the long term. But that doesn't mean they can't make mistakes along the way. I think I've rambled enough about this. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment down below if you agree with me, disagree with me, think that my Wii U is awesome. Let me know in the comments. Check out the Discord, check out the Patreon. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.